League of Legends patch 13.5 is dropping this week. This is everything that's happening, everything you guys need to know to stay on top of your game, pick bans, you know, all that good stuff. Let's hop right into it and start off with champion nerfs. So we're getting champion nerfs to Aurelion Sol, Caitlyn, Gangplank, Rammus, Twitch, Xayah, and the guy up top, Yor. All the details of each nerf and each buff will be on screen. You can either pause the video or rewind it or rewatch the video. Moving right along, we're getting champion buffs to Aatrox. Fizz, I'm really curious about Fizz just because I don't see him that often. I honestly, as a mid laner, he just seems like that champion that I really want to play, but you have to like be a one trick. In my opinion, you have to be a one trick to really be good with him. So we'll see how these buffs do with him. Jinx, Kennen, LeBlanc, Quinoa, Rumble, Samira, and Trinomir. And now we're gonna hop into some of the champion adjustments. There's a lot of champion adjustments this patch, and these are pretty important because an adjustment basically means that the champion is getting changed in some way. It's not just a buff to their stats or, you know, making their Q more powerful. Typically, it's like they're changing one ability, they're changing up the way an ability works entirely, or they could be changing the champion as a whole. So let's hop into it, starting off with Ashe. Ashe is getting a champion adjustment, and what's happening is they're nerfing her support side of her kit, essentially. So they're reducing the mana cost of her Q and making it last longer as well. They're reducing the damage on her volley a little bit. It's not that big of a nerf, but it is somewhat of a nerf. And her ultimate is actually getting a huge nerf from level 1, and then it will stay pretty consistent throughout the rest of the game, or going from an 80-second cooldown to now a 100-second cooldown at level 1. That's going to hard nerf Ashe support and hopefully get her out of that role, because honestly, that's one of the most frustrating supports to play against right now. Next, we have Azir's adjustment. They're changing up his base stats, passive, Q, W, E. They're all getting adjusted. So let's hop into it. We're gonna put the base stats on the screen here so you can look at those. There's so many of them. I don't think it's super important that we hop into every one of those, but I think it is important that we go over some of his abilities because there are new things that actually have been added and some things have been taken away. So Azir's Sundisk for his passive will now apply Azir's special effects as a single target spell. To be honest, I don't even know what that means. That's something that's been added new to his passive, and they're removing the extra damage boost that it gets towards champions. So it's going to do the same damage across the board to minions, monsters, champions. His Q is getting nerfed, but kind of early on, and you'll see it more as a buff later into the game as you build AP. But in terms of mana cost, it's definitely getting nerfed. So his W is actually getting totally reworked from the ground up, essentially changing his entire kit. And so they're removing the attack speed portion of his kit and turning it into additional magic damage with his soldiers. So now, instead of having 3 soldiers and getting additional attack speed, you're going to be getting more ability power with those soldiers. And this changes up Azir entirely. It's going to turn him more into a burst mage rather than sustained, you know, attack speed, some sort of like, I don't know, hybrid Bel'Veth type of like mage. So yeah, that is actually really interesting, and I'm curious to see how that actually plays out with this patch. Because of all these changes with the increased ability power to his kit and whatnot, they're actually reducing the AP scaling on his E a little bit, probably to compensate with, you know, all those other changes. Next up is Pantheon's adjustment. With base health regeneration decreased, his attack speed has been increased, his Q cooldown has been decreased early on, and his mana cost has also been decreased. His Q tap wind up time has actually been decreased so you can spam that Q quicker, and his E cooldown with the shield has increased later into the game, so you can't be just blocking, I guess, a ton of damage later on in the game. That pretty much wraps up Pantheon. There's not too much more you need to know past that. Yuumi is getting a total rework, and if you want to see that, you haven't seen that video yet, you can click right here or right here, wherever we put that, and you can watch Yuumi's reworked video and see kind of like all the things that are happening with her. There's a lot, so definitely check that out. And last but not least, Zed's adjustments. So they're making it so his base magic resist is decreased, and they're also decreasing his E's cooldown later on in the game so he can spam it a little more, probably do more damage as Zed does. He does need help later into the game because Zed late game is where he struggles the most. To keep this rolling, we have a couple system adjustments to items and runes that we're seeing. So Cosmic Drive is getting changed a bit. You can see those stats on the screen as well. Grassy and Dying is also getting changed. Take a look at the screen, you'll see it. Jungle is also getting changed as well, which is actually a pretty big change. They're making it so full clear junglers are actually getting more rewarded rather than just spam gank junglers. You can watch that video right here if you haven't seen that yet. Plated Steel Caps is getting adjusted, and as well as Seraph's Embrace and Archangel Staff, and Triumph is getting a slight change as well. You can see all those stats on the screen. There's a couple ARAM adjustments that were actually pretty significant. So they're removing the falling towers in ARAM that were implemented in preseason, and that's that's actually a huge change. Apparently, there was a lot of people that were abusing this, and they didn't like that Anivia was building a wall and like holding minions for, you know, years and years and stacking up tons of waves. So things like that, as well as other abilities, were really causing, like, I guess, friction in the game. And so they removed falling towers. Unfortunately, Aram is back to basically its normal state, other than the Hextech gates, and I think there's like one other change that they had in preseason. I'm kind of sad to see that go, but I'm not really an Aram player. Let me know what you guys think, you Aram players. Let me know if you guys will miss those falling towers or if you actually enjoyed that mechanic. The first clash of the year is finally here, and here is a schedule of the next upcoming clashes that's happening this weekend. Depending on when you're watching this video, that's going to be happening this weekend. I hope to be playing in that one. I haven't played in a clash in so long. I really need more friends. They're changing the champion pricing structure across all champions. This is a huge update, actually, especially for newer players. This will be important. So if you haven't seen that video, you can click that video here. Man, there's a lot of videos that you guys can just reference from this one. So click that there if you haven't seen that yet. They added a queue delay penalty for AFK players. So if you AFK and the game gets reset, or you know, you have to re-queue, then that player that went AFK will actually have to wait a minute to restart and go play another game. That's actually justified, and I think it should be longer than that, but what else can you do? They're doing away with the 32-bit client, which is something that most of you, it says apparently 99.9% of players are all on the 64-bit version of League, so you don't have to worry about this change, but they're doing away with it. We won't see any more 32-bit clients. A huge change to ranked or competitive play. In terms of LP, dodge penalties are actually getting increased. So whenever you dodge, the penalty will actually be increased now proportionally to the LP changes that happened in patch 13.4. So basically, instead of getting a -3, you're gonna get -5 LP if you dodge, and subsequent dodges will go from -10 to -15. So watch out, guys. If you're dodging multiple games in a row, definitely wanna watch out for that. There's a couple other bug fixes and quality of life changes that you guys can see here. The editor will kindly put that on the screen, please. The Mythic Shop is actually rotating, and Prestige Broken Covenant Misfortune is going to be in there available to purchase, which I think that skin, it looks nice, but Misfortune just has so many skins, man. And last but not least, the Broken Covenant skin line is releasing with Broken Covenant, Cho'Gath, Xayah, Rakan, Nocturne, Vladimir, Riven, which the Riven one is my favorite. That one looks so nice. I wish I could play Riven. Misfortune, and of course, Prestige Misfortune. And that's it for this patch. It was actually a huge one, so make sure you guys hit that like button and subscribe if you want to stay up to date with everything League of Legends and Riot games. My name is Shepherd. See you next time. Peace.